Day 4 in the sentencing of Michael Slager this morning. The big news that came out, breaking news, that the judge basically considered what happened in April of 2015 second-degree murder. He said that there was not enough evidence to show that there was heat of passion involved. He also said that Slager obstructed justice in misleading investigators about what happened. The judge has heard from the families. The impact statements have been given. And now we are waiting for Judge Norton to hand down that sentence, and that could be coming down at any moment. News 2's Rebecca Collette in the courtroom joins us now live. She just came outside here briefly. Rebecca, just kind of giving a rundown of the things that played out this morning, but give us a little more detail on what went on. And Rebecca obviously can't hear us at this point, but Rebecca Collette joining us outside of the courthouse there, the federal courthouse in downtown Charleston. Michael Slager, the ex-North Charleston police officer, appears to be headed for prison.
Hey,
the only question is how long he will be in prison after the shooting death of Walter Scott. He entered a plea deal on the federal level, which pretty much put to rest any possibility of him being convicted of murder at the state level. Those charges have been dropped. This is the only sentence that he will face, and the only question now is how long. Guys, can Rebecca hear us at this point? Somebody, anybody? Talk to me. Okay. We are waiting. We're trying to get hooked up here with Rebecca Collette. She's been in the courtroom hearing those victim impact statements today. She said it in one of the emails to us, giving us an update on what's going on inside there. She said while Judy Scott, the mother of Walter Scott, was giving her impact statement, she locked eyes with Michael Slager, who at that point started to cry in the courtroom. His youngest son also spoke. That was on Wednesday in testimony, called as a witness. He asked the judge to impose the harshest sentence, and that is life in prison. When this plea deal is entered, I've been emailing back and forth with former Attorney General Charlie Condon. When this plea deal is entered, or was entered, a violation of civil rights carries a penalty of 0 to life. That's the guideline that the judge has to go with. He then has to interpret whether he would use the sentencing guidelines for second-degree murder or manslaughter. He chose second-degree murder, that coming out as soon as he took the bench today. Rebecca Collette joining us now. Becca, I've been trying to kind of go over the highlights of what happened. Give us a little more detail of what went on in court today as we sit and wait to find out how long Michael Slager will spend in prison.
Hey, Brad, good morning. It was a little stunning. The judge came in, sat down, and immediately went in to how he was going to rule on a couple of issues, the murder 2 versus manslaughter. He just got right to it, as well as the obstruction of justice. And then we heard from Walter Scott's family. And the most poignant moment, at least from my perspective, was when there weren't any words being said. Walter Scott's mother, Judy, came in and she made statements, but she turned around and she addressed Michael Slager, staring at his eyes, saying to him that she forgives him and asking him to accept Jesus into his heart and be forgiven, saying that she forgives him. And then there was a moment where they were locking eyes and there were no words exchanged, but you knew that both of them were in tears, both of them devastated by what happened. And it was just a moment with this mother who lost her son and a man who was about to spend a large chunk of his life behind bars. It really was, the feeling really was palpable. There was also a really emotional moment when Rodney Scott, that's Walter's youngest brother, got up and he held in his hand a light bulb, the light bulb that would have been in the tail light of Walter Scott's car. And he said that he got it and it was $1.15. And he said, my brother died over $1.15 light bulb. And you could tell that just the magnitude of the loss versus what started this entire situation, you could just feel the heaviness of what he was saying. He went on to tell the judge that he didn't understand why this went so far. And then he also said that he hurt for Michael Slager's youngest son. You may remember Michael Slager's wife had a baby just a couple of weeks after this shooting. But he followed up by saying that Walter Scott's children are now without their father and that he would never walk his daughter down the aisle. There was a lot of emotional testimony, as we expected. When I came downstairs here, Brad, Scarlett Wilson was speaking, addressing the court, saying that she was glad that this situation was being handled in federal court because of the global implications of this case and what this means, not just to Charleston, not just closing this out for the people here in the Low Country, but closing this out for the people in the United States, all that are feeling the effects of what's going on around our country. So we are taking a short break. It's likely we will hear from some more victim impact statements, if you call them that. It's likely we will hear from Michael Slager's family members, perhaps even Michael Slager himself. You may remember he took the stand in the state trial. We didn't hear from him during sentencing so far. So we still have a little ways to go, Brad, but it is likely we will know the fate of Michael Slager here very shortly. I'm Rebecca Collette reporting live downtown Charleston. Count on 2. All
right, Rebecca, we'll let you get back inside. Great reporting for us. We'll check back in as soon as we have an update.